Now let's have a quick browse across some of the rods that suit these styles of reels. Now each of these reels has a specific range of rods or a specific type of rod that will suit them. Overhead reels at the front need a specific type of rod to suit them, while spinning reels at the back need a specific type of rod to suit those guys as well. Now generally I wouldn't recommend trying to use one rod for both types of reels, and there's a few reasons for this. Now this rod that we've got here, what you'll notice is it's got what's called a trigger here. Now this type of reel is actually designed for a low profile or drum style bait caster to fit onto, sitting on top just like that there. Now what that trigger is designed for is for you to wrap your fingers around so that your thumb sits nice and comfortably on the top and you get plenty of traction and grip so that when you're casting you won't throw that rod away. Bait cast rods or overhead rods also have a few other little differences as well. Because the line sits on top and runs through the rod across the top of the blank, you generally want to have plenty of runners all the way through, and the reason for that is when the rod loads up and gets that nice smooth curve, you want to have it so that your line doesn't touch the blank at any point. The other thing you'll notice is that the runners are much smaller all the way through, right to the very tip end of the rod there. Now the reason for that is when you cast with an overhead reel like one of these models, the line flows off directly in a straight line. A spinning reel on the other hand, the line flies off in loops. Now that's where a spinning rod is different. This one here is a spinning rod. You can see it doesn't have the trigger on the bottom designed to help you grip the reel, because with a spinning reel you actually have this stem here that is designed for your fingers to grip onto, so you get plenty of grip and you won't throw the rod away when you cast. Now when it comes to the runners or the guides on the rod, a spinning rod has bigger runners all the way through and fewer of them. You'll notice that the first runner here is a lot bigger, and the reason for that is when you cast, the line coming off a spinning reel comes out in big loops. So you need to have a bigger runner to accommodate those loops coming off so that your cast isn't hindered or impeded by the line flowing through the runners there. That way you get a nice smooth transition from the line flowing off the reel through the runners and all the way out through the tip of the rod. As we move into different styles of fishing, we also start to get different types of rods. Now surf fishing is another one where you see guys fishing with much bigger rods and much bigger reels. And you can see here with this rod, with this setup here in this end, which we call the butt section, it's much bigger, it's much longer, and it's designed for distance casting. Now this one again, it will have a similar rod setup or runner setup to the lighter ones. So an overhead one will have lots of runners and small runners, where a rod designed for a spinning reel will have big runners and fewer runners all the way through. The main difference comes down to this end here, and the length of this area which we call the butt section. If it's got a really long butt section like this, then it's generally designed for distance casting, and that's so you get plenty of leverage to try and cast those lures or baits as far out into the surf as you possibly can. Let's have a quick look at an offshore rod. Now this one here is an offshore rod designed for a much bigger, much more heavy duty reel like this one here. Now you can see that the grips are much bigger and much larger, and the reel seat is a lot more heavy duty and designed for heavy duty fishing. You wouldn't go and put a tiny little reel like this one onto a rod like this. You want to keep the whole outfit balanced and matching weight wise so that it's a nice comfortable outfit to fish with all day long. Now again, the same principles apply, especially when it comes to your runners. Now this one's got much bigger runners and fewer of them, so of course it's designed for a spinning reel. This one here on the other hand has much smaller runners and has a lot of them, so it's designed for an overhead reel, so that line flows nice and smoothly all the way through when you've got that rod loaded up and your line doesn't touch the blank at any point in time. So let's just do a little recap on what we've spoken about. We've got our overhead reels and our spinning reels, and of course we have a specific type of rod to suit those particular reels. The overhead rods generally have smaller runners and more of them all the way through, whereas the spinning rod has fewer runners and bigger ones all the way through. Now that is basically the most simple way you can explain it. Of course there are 1,001 other variations on that particular theme, but at the end of the day, like I've said before, it comes down to what feels most comfortable to you, but of course at the end of the day what you can also afford. As I've mentioned before with the reels, it's really important to buy the best you can possibly afford, and likewise with the rod. It's not just marketing hype, it does make a massive difference in the enjoyment, the comfort of your fishing, and also the length of life that you're going to get out of that particular outfit. So naturally, at the end of the day, the more dollars you spend on your initial purchase, the better quality the outfit is going to be. When you spend a few extra dollars, you get an outfit that is generally much easier to use and will also last a lot longer because the materials are of a much higher quality internally. So I hope the few little tips I've given you will make it just that little bit easier, but of course you can't beat going into a professional tackle store where the staff fish and can help you out every step along the way. That's the most critical factor.